Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about qualifying cash buyers. And also, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you guys my shortcut for getting legitimate cash buyers in any market. So if you get a deal and you're trying to move it and you don't have a large buyers list, I'll share with you guys what I do and also how you guys can do that yourself. So where we're starting at here, guys, we're not talking about generating cash buyers in this video. We're actually talking about after you've generated the buyers, say you posted your property on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or on Zillow. We're talking about when they actually come in and call and they're interested in your property. How do you qualify them? How do you determine who is legit or not? Because I would tell you guys, there are a lot of tire kickers out there and a lot of time wasters. When I first started, I used to get very googly-eyed over buyers. They would say, well, I flipped 100 houses last year, or I have $100,000 to spend on that property now. I need you, Cece, to go out and find me a house. Guys, that is all lip service. I don't take any of that into consideration, really, up until they put money in my pocket. I don't really care what they've done previously. It's all about, can you perform on the deal I have? Nothing that they've done before, unless they've worked with me before, really matters unless they sign my assignment contract and put down my earnest money deposit with my closing attorney. So just remember, when you're working with these buyers, hey, they'll tell you so many different things and you'll get excited over them because you think they have big pockets. They're just talking. It doesn't mean anything until they actually put that pen to paper, or they sign your DocuSign for your assignment contract and put down that earnest money deposit. So let's talk about what a tire kicker is. A tire kicker is basically a time waster. That's something we use commonly in the investment space, mainly when we're talking about buyers. I've heard people mention tire kickers when they're talking about sellers, but me personally, if somebody's wasting my time and they're a buyer, they're a tire kicker. So you're going to need to be able to vet them. And just understand that when you're vetting these buyers, yes, you want to be very strict with how you vet them, but also understand that these buyers may potentially increase your bottom line or your overall gross profit for your business. One buyer can increase it by $100,000. Just think, if you have a buyer and he buys a deal from your company a month and he's paying you a $10,000 assignment fee per deal, then that is a $100,000 acquisition for your company. So just understand, when you're talking to these buyers, you have to network and you have to talk to them. And this isn't something that you can simply just outsource to a virtual assistant. This is something you as the business owner should be doing, because this is ultimately affecting how much money you're making. So this and reviewing HUDs, if you're a business owner and you're looking to outsource anything, these two things will be the last thing I will outsource, because your buyers are going to pay you. You mess up a relationship with one of your buyers, it could end up very poorly for you, because buyers, they network with other buyers. So if you end up talking to a buyer and rubbing them the wrong way, you could easily get a bad reputation out there in your market. And another thing here, before we talk about qualifying our buyers, guys, I don't let anybody just go through my properties. Really, when I'm talking to a buyer and I have them on the phone, and if it gets to the point where I allow them to go to a house, I already know for the most part whether or not they're going to buy that house. Typically, they're already 90% sold. They just need to go through the house and ensure that there isn't anything that will be like a deal breaker. For instance, termite damage or extensive foundation work. Anything that can't be seen from the pictures, they pretty much just want to get eyes on it, just to make sure the house is standing there and there isn't anything that they can't see from the pictures that will be a deal breaker. So I don't have everybody just walk through my house. And really, I try to wholesale my deals with having less than 5 buyers walk through any given property. So I vet a lot of people beforehand. I may talk to 30 people that may be interested in a property, but only 2 or 3 actually get to that point where they're able to go out there. And 1 or 2 of those buyers will actually be super legit and interested. And usually I'll go with 1 or 2 of those buyers and I won't have to show the property to another batch of buyers. So if you're qualifying your buyers properly, it will make everything much easier and you won't have to have that awkward conversation with your seller with having buyers constantly go through the property. So let's talk about tips for qualifying our cash buyers. So here's the scenario. Let's just say you put your property on Zillow and you have buyers start calling you. So what will a typical call look like with a buyer? First off, I'm going to have an introduction around 30 seconds and we're just going to talk about the weather, talk about the game that just happened or, just pleasantries, introduce myself. And then after that, you should have your pictures online. Or if that buyer is on your email list, he should be able to view those through the email. And that's another way you can eliminate tire kickers as well. Guys, don't try to be bashful about the property's condition. I want my buyer to know exactly if they're buying a piece of junk, what exactly that piece of junk looks like. I don't try to spruce it up or make it look any better than it is, because then you're only going to get buyers that are unqualified and they're going to be thinking that this house is something that they wanted, but you misrepresented it through the pictures. Maybe you left out one or two spots in the house that need extensive repair work and you didn't include those in the pictures that you sent them. So don't try to pull the wool over your buyer's eyes. Just be very transparent. Trust me, they would appreciate that and you will too, because if you put all the information out there on the house and the property is in really poor condition and you still have buyers contacting you about it, that they're more serious than a non-serious buyer or maybe even a newer buyer that probably would have considered that house, but given the extensive repair work, won't consider it now. So it just saves you and them time from you guys just wasting each other's time. So here are the things I would ask them on the phone. So after they viewed the pictures, I would then go into and ask them a few questions. And I'm probing here. I'm not doing this in a threatening way because it's very important. You could have a tire kicker on the phone, but you also could have a very legitimate buyer. You want to treat them with respect because that relationship could go a long way, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video. So I go into the conversation wanting to learn more about my buyers because I learned so much about my market when I communicated with the buyers. I understood the housing trends, repair costs. You could be marketing to an area and there could be an issue with the county. The county could be probably interested in tearing down all those houses. And this is something that actually happened to me. There was a part in Charleston where I was marketing to, but I didn't realize that the county was actually looking to change part of that area into the naval base, like buy all those properties out, I think through eminent domain. So if I did not talk to buyers on the ground that were flipping houses in that area, I would not have known that until it was too late. And so I would have continued to market to an area and potentially wholesale properties and not be able to move them. Why? Because I wasn't notified or I did not know that the county had intentions on tearing those houses down. So you want to be able to talk to your buyers because you're learning from them and you're learning what they want and you're learning about market trends and stuff. So it's very important because then you're able to go back and refine your list pulling and targeting based on the information you're getting from your buyers. So this is a question that I asked them off the bat. I asked them, hey, are you buying with hard money? Most likely the answer will be yes. If it's not yes, then you want to get off this phone call as soon as possible because pretty much all your buyers will be buying with hard money. If they're not, the house is probably less than 100K and they're probably paying with cash. So hard money cash is the same thing, but usually most of your legitimate rehabbers are paying with hard money. So if they're doing high volume, I really find it hard to believe that they're paying every single property with all of their cash, both the acquisition costs of getting the deal and the repair costs. That's a lot of money because you have to think if you have two flips out for 200K and they're spending, they have to come out of pocket for $200,000. That's a lot of money. You could just go to a hard money lender, put down 20% on each one and leverage your money. So your serious buyers are going to be using hard money. If you hear anything like FHA loans or they're looking to buy it with a conventional mortgage, that's not a cash buyer. There's no way you can make that work. Just automatically get off the phone. Don't do it, please, because you're going to end up tying up your deal for your seller, and you're not going to be able to close quickly because there are hoops that seller needs to jump through in order to get qualified for that mortgage and for that mortgage company to actually lend on that deal. They have to go through an appraisal. They have to go through formal inspections. It just takes a long time to get it closed. We want to be dealing with actual legitimate cash buyers, and hard money lenders are usually the individuals and entities they go to fund their deals, which is why I asked this. So I'll usually ask it in a way where I'm probing to see how many deals they flipped, because you don't want to ask them outright, well, how many properties have you flipped in the last 10 months or 12 months? That's very personal, especially if you just are establishing the relationship. So there was a company I was working with, and this is the perfect example because they brought on an individual to work with them, to work specifically with cash buyers. But this young lady literally just talked to the buyers as if they were sellers, or, she didn't really network with them or smooth them, as I would say, basically rubbing elbows with them. It was just like every time we got a deal, she would tell them, we have a property for $100,000. We're asking $130,000. You could put down $5,000 earnest money deposit. If you don't do that, the deal's going to somebody else. That's a very rude way to approach a buyer. Talk to them like you want to be talked to. These are investors. These are the people that are paying you, and you're working for them, essentially. So just understand that if you're talking to somebody and you get the sense that they're a tire kicker, within the first 30 seconds, and definitely by the time you ask this question, you'll know whether or not they're a good fit or not. And you don't have to be rude about it. Just get off the phone. If they seem like they aren't able to perform, just say, hey, I don't think this is a good fit for you, or say, hey, I'll call you back later. I'm working with a few other buyers trying to determine who I'm going to move forward with. And that's true because you're going to be talking to them and probably others. And with you being the business owner, you can move forward with whoever you want, and you don't have to offer an explanation. That's why I love wholesaling, because I can pretty much just go with who I like in these situations and who I get a gut feeling with that's going to be able to close and not have a lot of drama attached to it. So just understand when you're talking to these buyers, treat them with respect, but just know that if they say they're not buying with hard money, that's the first strike against them. They should not even be talking to you. It shouldn't even get to the point where they're able to view the house. So you don't have to ask for proof of funds and all that stuff. Guys, by the time you ask these 3 questions, and I'll show you the next 2 here shortly, but by the time you ask these questions, you're going to know whether or not you're dealing with a legitimate buyer, because they're very specific questions, right? So if I ask this first question and then they say, well, yeah, I'm using hard money, but and then I ask them, well, has that hard money lender lent on similar properties in this area? And they say, well, you know what? I'm just establishing the relationship with the hard money lender. Your spidey senses should be going off, and you should know that this is a new rehabber. We don't want to work with new rehabbers on our deals. We want to work with experienced rehabbers on our properties. So that is a good way to eliminate a lot of people from moving forward. We just don't let anybody get into our house. We qualify them beforehand, and we want to eliminate all the non-serious buyers and make them jump through hoops. But like I said, we can do this in a very kind way. I don't need to see their bank statements or anything like that. If you ask these questions, you're going to know whether or not they're serious. So let's go on to the next one. And here's another question I like asking. If you check out the house today and you're interested in buying it, could you close as a buyer as soon as the title work comes back clean? And if their answer is like, it may take me 30 days, or they're hesitant, then they're not a true cash buyer. If they're a true cash buyer, they should be able to close as soon as that title work comes back. Now, I understand hard money lenders, it takes a little while. Sometimes it could take like 2 weeks for the funding to get lined up. That's fine. As long as it's within 30 days, I'm cool with that. But if you ask them this and they say, well, it might take me a little bit after that, or I need a longer due diligence period. No. We're offering these people properties that are 50 cents on the dollar. There shouldn't be all this red tape that they're asking you to go through, or they need to go through. You're pretty much giving them a deal that they can close on and list and probably make they're investment back plus a lot more. So, if they're asking you a lot of stuff about the property or they're saying they can't close after you get the title work back, that's another red flag and you should probably not move forward with them. So number 3, guys, this is the next thing I would ask or tell them to do. The buyer should be eager to buy your deal. So if everything checks out with those 2 questions, the next thing that I'm asking them is this. First off, guys, this buyer should be very eager to buy your deal. They should be like blowing you up to get access to view this property and buy it. We don't want fair weather buyers. We want buyers that are enthusiastic, because if they're enthusiastic about buying it, guess what? They're not going to ask questions if you throw in a $20,000 assignment fee or 30 or 40 grand. That's why I want buyers that want my deals, and I don't chase buyers down. Hey, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. So if you're just establishing this relationship with the buyer and they're new, I typically always ask for their driver's license. And I'm only going to do this just to know who I'm working with and make them jump through another hoop. And this isn't anything out of the norm. Realtors ask for this all the time. So if you're going to go view a house or if you're going to go rent an apartment, you know what? They're going to ask you for your driver's license. So this isn't something that is out of the norm for our industry. So I would have them text that to me just so I know who's going into the house. And also so they know that, hey, I'm legitimate and I'm just not letting anybody go through this property. If they are eager to buy the house, then they will absolutely send that, no questions asked. If they say, well, why are you asking me for my driver's license? Then I will just tell them, hey, you know what? This probably isn't a good fit for you, and move on. Don't beg anybody for their business, guys. You have the deal. You have the power. And like I said a few minutes ago, just based on those answers, you should be able to gauge whether or not they can close quickly and have the funds to do so. So after asking those questions and then getting to the point where I'm asking for their license, then I allow them to go view the house. But usually what I do as well is I try to stack up like 4 or 5 buyers at a time and then have them come in the house all at once. Just so I'm not having a lot of people trickle in and out of that house, especially if there's a tenant there or if the seller is living there themselves. So just keep that in mind. But this video is centered around qualifying buyers. I can make another video on generating buyers and also the process of what happens after you have the buyers and you're trying to choose them. I can go through and make another video on that if you guys want, but I just want to keep this centered around qualifying. And as you guys may know, there are always exceptions to the rule. As much as I'd like to say, here's a script for you to say for every buyer. Here's what you should do with every buyer. Use common sense and understand that as much as you'd like to have structure and standards and standard operating procedures in your business, there are always exceptions. So this is a main exception that I've come across. If you do not have a lot of buyers for a particular property and you know it's going to be difficult to move, then I'm more lenient on my requirements. So let's just say it's in a rural area or it's a mobile home on a slab. And it could be something where I might be able to move, but there's only a select few buyers that may fit that particular property. I may not even ask them for their license because I may not even be able to move that property anyway. So it's sort of a long shot. So I may just tell them, hey, go check out the property. Also, if the property is like vacant or I get the sense that the seller is out of state or they're not checking up on the house that much, then I may just send people over there to the house without having them send me their license and stuff. It just all depends. Sometimes I just want to get more eyes and activity on the house to get a sense on whether or not my price is right. So I may just have a whole bunch of buyers go through the house, especially if it's vacant. So I know whether or not I contracted it at the right price and whether or not I need to go back and get a price reduction from my seller. So another thing I do as well is when I establish really good relationships with my buyers, I even let them check out properties before I have them under contract. So sometimes I'm able to get access to the houses even before I have them under contract, or as soon as the lead comes in and it looks like the seller is within our asking price, I may just shoot it to my buyer and see what they think. But you don't want to do this with newer buyers. Do this with your very legitimate buyers that have actually purchased a lot of properties from you. So that's a little tidbit there, I would say would be an exception as well. So here are some red flags to look for, guys, when you are vetting new buyers. So if they sound like they're reading from a script, or say, I have a lot of buyers I work with within this area and they would love to take a look at this deal, this is a wholesaler. You don't want to work with them. Stay away from them. I probably cold wholesaled 2 deals out of my whole time investing. Really, guys, when it comes down to it, if you're putting your property on the MLS, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, and it's just visible to a lot of people, then the buyers that they have most likely saw that deal and they aren't interested. It just makes things more complicated, daisy chaining your deals, and it's just an unnecessary expense or percentage that you're cutting out when you don't need to. If you have to move your deal through another wholesaler, it might be because your property is not properly priced. Unless you're working with a big company like New Western, where they have like a lot of buyers that may want retail, but they're just one and done buyers. They're not true rehab cash buyers. Like, they're not buying this property to rehab and to resell. They will actually want to live in it themselves, and they have cash to do so. New Western, they're a company that operates out in Texas, I believe, but they do nothing but wholesale other wholesalers deals. So a company like that with a lot of cash buyers, I would be more open to co-wholesaling with versus an actual new wholesaler, especially if they sound like they're reading from a script. What's the likelihood that they're going to have more buyers than you? Even if you're newer, it's not likely. So here's another red flag, and I've had this happen often, is buyers will want to top your deal because it may be such a good deal, but they may not have their money in line, and they may ask you to hold the deal for them. Don't do this. I've done this before, because what usually will happen is the buyer will go ghost or it won't work out. And then if you take it off the MLS or you take it off of Zillow or Craigslist, or you say to buyers that you're not selling it, you have a buyer for it, then you're screwing yourself over, because you do not have a signed assignment contract nor earnest money deposit. So let's just say this buyer ties up your deal for 2 weeks. You told the seller that you could close in 30 days. By then you should be in the process of getting that title work back and you should be ready to close. So this will set you back. If you tied up your deal for 2 weeks, then you have to spend another week or 2 weeks finding the other buyers. But what happens at this point is that you have already lost a lot of momentum because other buyers have already seen the property. So if you try to market it more, then it's going to seem like old news. So go with the first person that puts down earnest money. That's just what I do. And I go with very experienced investors, which leads me to my next point here. So if a buyer is asking you a lot of information about that property, like when the roof was last replaced, what the zoning is, if it could be rezoned, or specifics about the repairs and stuff like that, guys, this is a newbie rehabber. Experienced investors already know what they can pretty much rehab that house for without even seeing it, by just running their numbers, especially if they're buying a lot of homes in that particular neighborhood or area. Like I said, just seeing the house and going in it is a formality. That should be the last thing they need to do. Truthfully, most of your buyers should be able to buy these houses sight unseen. But I understand, they want to be able to get in there and see it. But really, you shouldn't have a lot of buyers going in and out of that house. And the buyers that you're working with should be extremely experienced. This is twofold. One, it just makes the process smoother, and you don't have to explain what wholesaling is over and over again. So when they see your assignment contract, they're not asking, well, what's this? Or I want to use my closing attorney. No, they just understand if you're wholesaling the deal, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be using your closing attorney. They know that they need to do their own due diligence on the property. They know that's not on the wholesaler. So if a buyer is asking you about the repair estimates, whether or not the basement is heated or not, and that counts as the heated square footage, if that room that was converted from a garage to an actual bedroom is listed on the county site, all that stuff is their responsibility, not yours. You are offering them a property at a significant discount. Really, it is a privilege for them to get access to this property. Their alternative is that they can go on the MLS and pay 80 cents on a dollar for properties. So if somebody's asking you for a lot of information about the repairs, then just know that's a red flag and they probably are not a serious investor. And lastly, guys, I said that I was going to tell you the shortcut for finding qualified buyers. Guys, it's as simple as listing your properties on the MLS. Some of you all may be doing this already. When I started doing this, it really changed the game for me. My purchase contract, which I'll link in the description for you guys, it has a clause in there where I'm able to list my properties on the MLS. Gives me access to list them on Zillow and on Craigslist and any other house buying website I want. And I have not had any resistance with sellers signing it. And I have not had a lot of resistance with realtors or brokers putting my deals on the MLS. Now, I will say you will have more trouble putting them on the MLS and finding that right broker, because if you talk to some realtors, just depending on the market you're in, and really this is in every market, to be honest, if they don't understand what you're trying to do, they're going to say it's illegal because they didn't learn it in realtor school. So just politely hang up and call somebody else. You should be able to go through about 10 people before you find somebody who will either want to push your deal out to their buyers list or put your deal on the MLS. So I usually just pay them a flat fee if I can of anywhere between $200 to like $400. And I have them listed on the MLS. I don't like cutting them in a percentage of the actual assignment fee, because then that takes money out of my pocket. And the only thing they're doing is just putting it on the MLS. I'm vetting all the buyers. So really at the end of the day, they're just getting paid to put the deal on the MLS, which takes them really probably should only take them less than 2 hours. So make sure you check out the description. I'll have the link to my contract there that you guys could download. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. So when we're working with buyers, remember it is all about networking. All that other stuff you're doing as far as hiring VAs and outsourcing other parts of your business, it's all to free up your time to do this. This is what you should be focused on as the owner of the wholesaling business. Not formatting Excel documents, not cold calling sellers, not learning the latest tech tool and going down a rabbit hole with that. You should be speaking to buyers and individuals that are going to put money in your pocket. So understand that in this position and in this role, this is like the one thing that's the most difficult to outsource, because it's a networking thing. If you're going to outsource this, you definitely want to have somebody who's an American in this role and who understands networking and who's very extroverted. And usually, like I said, this is the last thing you're going to outsource. Everything else in your business needs to be outsourced before you do this, because this is basically how you get paid, with working and networking with buyers. So just understand that. Don't treat them like sellers. Understand that there are a lot of buyers out there. There are more buyers than good deals. I highlighted this right here. Please remember that. But also understand that your buyers are going to be paying you at the end of the day. So there's that balance between understanding not to bend over backwards for all your buyers, but also to the value of having a handful of good buyers. When I started wholesaling, I thought I needed a huge buyers list, and I did have one. I had about 2,000 buyers on it. But really, guys, I had like 2 or 3 buyers that bought majority of my deals, and that was more than enough to sustain both myself, my business partner, my acquisitions team, and my whole company. So just understand that when you find a good one, continue to work with them and nurture that relationship. But that will be all for this video, guys. I hope this clears up some confusion around this topic. If you have any other topics you want me to cover, please comment below and I will definitely get those made for you guys. And I hope you have a great day, and I will see you guys on the next video.